Jessica Morgan's hands trembled as she balanced the oversized coffee cup while pushing through the conference room doors. Her new heels clicked awkwardly on the marble floor, and before she could steady herself, the cup flew from her grasp. Time seemed to slow as the dark liquid arced through the air, splattering across the pristine white presentation board displaying Sterling Innovations' biggest campaign of the year. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward her. The room fell silent, except for the steady drip of coffee onto the expensive carpet. Jessica's heart sank into her stomach as she realized what she had just destroyed. 6 months of work, millions of dollars in potential revenue. Her career. The head of the glass table sat Vincent Sterling, the man whose reputation preceded him like a storm. His emerald eyes lifted from his tablet, fixing on her with an intensity that made her knees weak. He was known throughout the industry as the youngest self-made CEO in Silicon Valley, brilliant and ruthless in equal measure. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his navy suit tailored to perfection, and his expression completely unreadable. The verdict, Miss Morgan. Vincent's voice cut through the silence like a blade wrapped in velvet. You've just destroyed half a year of strategic planning in 3 seconds. That must be some kind of record. Jessica wanted the floor to swallow her. Whole, her cheeks burned with humiliation as she clutched the empty cup. Mr. Sterling, I'm so sorry. I can fix this. Please, just give me a chance. Vincent stood, his 6-foot frame commanding immediate attention. He walked toward the ruined board, his polished shoes stepping carefully around the coffee puddles. The other executives remained frozen, watching the scene unfold like spectators at a crash. Fix it? He turned to face her, and for a moment something flickered in his eyes. Not anger, but something else entirely. You think an apology repairs 6 months of market research and creative development? Jessica's throat tightened, but she refused to back down. She had fought too hard to get this position, working 3 jobs through college, graduating top of her class, surviving 100 rejections before Sterling Innovations finally hired her. I'm good at what I do, Mr. Sterling. Better than good. Give me 2 weeks, and I'll create something even better. The room held its breath. Vincent's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. He stepped closer, and Jessica caught the faint scent of sandalwood and something uniquely him. The space between them hummed with tension. 2 weeks, he repeated softly. Under my direct supervision. My office. My rules. He paused, his gaze holding hers. Can you handle that, Miss Morgan? The new arrangement, Jessica nodded, not trusting. Her voice. Vincent dismissed the meeting with a wave of his hand, and the executives filed out, casting curious glances her way. When the room emptied, Vincent handed her a thick folder. Your new contract, he said. Read every word. Sign it by end of day. Jessica opened the folder in her cubicle an hour later, her hands still shaking. The document was unlike any employment contract she had seen. It outlined strict rules for her probationary period. No personal calls during work hours. All designs required his approval before proceeding. No discussing the project with other staff members. And then she saw it, printed in bold halfway down. The second page. Rule 7. Maintain professional distance at all times. No physical contact with supervisor. The words seemed to burn on the page. Jessica's mind flashed back to the conference room, the way Vincent had stood close enough that she could feel his presence like heat from a flame. Why would such a rule exist unless it had been broken before? The first evening at 6 sharp, Jessica knocked on Vincent's office door. The space was everything she expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture in shades of gray and black, and walls lined with awards and patents. Vincent stood by the window, silhouetted against the golden sunset. You're punctual, he noted without turning. Good. I value time. Jessica set her portfolio on his desk. I brought preliminary concepts. I worked through lunch to get started. He turned, and in the warm light, his features seemed softer somehow. A small scar above his right eyebrow caught her attention, a tiny imperfection on an otherwise flawless face. "Eager to prove yourself?" "Eager to keep my job," she corrected. Vincent moved to his desk, gesturing for her to present her work. As Jessica spread out her sketches, she felt his presence behind her, close, but not touching. His shadow fell across her designs, and she was acutely aware of every breath, every slight movement. "This one," he pointed to a concept featuring bold typography and vibrant colors. His finger hovered near hers on the paper. "Tell me your thinking." Jessica explained her vision, her confidence growing as she spoke. Vincent listened without interruption, his expression thoughtful. When she finished, he leaned back against his desk, arms crossed. "You have talent," he admitted. "Raw, unfocused, but definitely there." He paused. "We'll refine it. Starting tomorrow, you'll work from the office adjacent to mine. I need to monitor your progress closely." Jessica's pulse quickened. "How closely?" His eyes met hers, and something electric passed between them. "Close enough to ensure you succeed, Miss Morgan. Unless that makes you uncomfortable?" She should say yes. She should request a different supervisor. But instead, she heard herself answer, "I can handle whatever you require, Mr. Sterling." His expression shifted, a spark of something dangerous flickering in those green eyes. "We'll see about that." He moved past her to open a side door she hadn't noticed. "Your new workspace. I expect you here at 7 tomorrow morning." Jessica peered into the smaller office. Glass walls offered a clear view into Vincent's space. Privacy would be impossible. Every glance, every moment would be observed. The realization sent a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with fear. As she gathered her things to leave, Vincent's voice stopped her at the door. "Miss Morgan, Rule 7 exists for a reason. Remember that." She turned to find him watching, her with an intensity that stole her breath. "I'll remember," she promised, though her racing heart suggested otherwise. Walking to her car through the empty parking garage, Jessica clutched her signed contract. She had 2 weeks to prove herself, working under the direct scrutiny of the most intimidating man she had ever met. 2 weeks of close quarters, late nights, and a rule that seemed designed to be tested. The city lights blurred through her windshield as she drove home, her mind replaying every moment in Vincent's office. The way he looked at her, the careful distance he maintained, the warning in his voice when he mentioned Rule 7. Jessica had always played it safe, followed the rules, kept her head down, and worked hard. But something about Vincent Sterling made her want to take risks, to push boundaries, to discover what lay beneath his cold exterior. She had no idea that her little accident with the coffee would lead to the most dangerous and transformative experience of her life. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. Jessica arrived at Sterling Innovations at 6:45 the next morning, determined to prove her dedication. The building was nearly empty, only security and a few early risers populating the sleek corridors. Her new office glowed with soft light as she entered, and through the transparent walls, she could see Vincent already at his desk, focused on his computer screen. He glanced up as she settled in, his expression unreadable. No greeting, no acknowledgement, just that penetrating gaze that made her feel simultaneously exposed and electrified. Jessica unpacked her supplies, hyper-aware of his presence just meters away. The glass walls might as well have been air for all the privacy they provided. Hours passed in concentrated work. Jessica sketched, refined, and discarded ideas with ruthless efficiency. Every so often, she felt Vincent's eyes on her, and when she dared to look, he was indeed watching, his expression analytical. It should have felt invasive, but instead, it pushed her to work harder, to be better. Breaking point around noon, Vincent appeared in her doorway holding 2 containers of salad and bottled water. "You missed lunch," he stated, setting one container on her desk. Eat. I need your brain functional, not starved. Jessica blinked in surprise. Thank you, but I was planning to work through lunch. That wasn't a suggestion. He settled into the chair across from her desk, opening his own container. Tell me about yourself, Miss Morgan. Where did you study? The question caught her off guard. Berkeley. Art and marketing double major. Graduated 2 years ago. Top of your class, he added, and her eyes widened. Yes, I read your file. Worked 3 jobs to pay tuition. Impressive determination. He paused, spearing a piece of grilled chicken. What drives you? Jessica set down her fork, meeting his gaze. I grew up watching my mother work herself to exhaustion as a seamstress, barely making ends meet. She had talent, real artistic vision, but no opportunities. I promised her I would make something of myself, create beauty that people would actually see and value. Something shifted in Vincent's expression, a crack in his professional armor. Your mother? Is she still in California? She passed away 3 years ago. Heart failure from decades of stress and overwork. Jessica's voice remained steady despite the familiar ache. She never got to see me graduate. Vincent was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was softer. My father built this company from nothing. He died when I was 23, left me everything along with mountains of debt and competitors circling like sharks. Everyone expected me to fail. He looked directly at her. I understand the weight of proving yourself, Miss Morgan. Perhaps better than you realize. The vulnerability in his admission stunned her. This was not the cold CEO everyone whispered about. This was someone who understood loss, pressure, and the desperate need to succeed. Dangerous proximity. As evening descended, the office emptied once more. Jessica's eyes burned from staring at her screen, but she was close to a breakthrough on the campaign design. She stood to stretch, rolling her shoulders, and nearly collided with Vincent, who had entered her office silently. Sorry, she gasped, stumbling backward. His hand shot out instinctively, steadying her by the arms. The contact was brief, electric, and completely against Rule 7. They both froze. Vincent's hands remained on her arms for a heartbeat longer than necessary, his thumbs pressing gently against the fabric of her blouse. His green eyes darkened as they locked with hers, and Jessica felt heat flood through her body. Rule 7, she whispered. But neither of them moved. I'm aware, Vincent replied, his voice rough. Slowly, deliberately, he released her and stepped back. That shouldn't have happened. Jessica's heart hammered. You were preventing me from falling. Was I? The question hung between them, loaded, with unspoken meaning. Vincent ran a hand through his hair, disturbing its perfect styling. Maybe you should go home, Miss Morgan. It's late. I'm almost finished with the revised concept. Then finish it tomorrow. His tone had returned to that cool, commanding register. I'll see you at 7. The discovery, the next 3 days fell into a rhythm. Jessica arrived early, worked under Vincent's watchful supervision, and left late after intense discussions about strategy and design. The tension between them remained, an undercurrent that made every interaction feel charged. On the 4th night, Jessica was gathering her things when she heard raised voices from Vincent's office. She paused, not meaning to eavesdrop, but Vincent's words were sharp enough to carry through the glass. How long has this been happening? He demanded into his phone. 3 weeks? And you're just telling me now? Jessica watched as he paced. His free hand clenched into a fist. The easy confidence he usually wore had vanished, replaced by barely controlled fury. Someone inside is feeding designs to quantum tech. Our entire spring line, all of it, leaked before we could file patents. His voice dropped to a dangerous level. Find out who. I don't care what it takes. Jessica's blood ran cold. A corporate spy. Inside Sterling Innovations. She thought of her coworkers, people she had coffee with, laughed with. One of them was a traitor. Vincent ended the call and slammed his phone on the desk. Through the glass, their eyes met. His expression was a storm of emotions, anger, betrayal, and something that looked like exhaustion. After a moment, he gestured for her to come in. Trust and suspicion. "You heard?" he stated as she entered. Jessica nodded. "I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to listen." Vincent studied her face with an intensity that felt like being scanned. "The question is, can I trust you?" The words stung more than they should have. "I signed a confidentiality agreement. I've never broken a professional trust in my life." "Everyone says that until the price is right." He moved to the window, his reflection ghostly against the night sky. "Quantum Tech is offering significant money for our proprietary information, enough to tempt almost anyone." Jessica stepped closer, anger rising in her chest. "I don't know what kind of people you usually deal with, Mr. Sterling, but I'm not for sale. My integrity isn't negotiable, and frankly, I'm insulted that you would suggest otherwise." He turned sharply, and she saw something like respect flicker in his eyes. "Most people would be intimidated right now. You're furious instead. Because you're wrong about me." She crossed her arms. "I've worked too hard to build my reputation to throw it away for money. My mother taught me that character is the only thing no one can take from you." Vincent was silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I believe you. Just like that? I'm good at reading people, Miss Morgan. It's how I've survived in this industry." He returned to his desk, suddenly looking tired. "The leak started around the time you were hired. You understand why I had to consider everyone." Jessica did understand, even as it hurt. "What are you going to do?" "Set a trap. Give false information to different departments. See which version ends up at Quantum." His eyes met hers. "I need someone I can trust to help me. Someone who has nothing to gain from betrayal and everything to lose." "You want me to spy on my co-workers?" "I want you to keep your eyes open. Note anything unusual. Anyone acting strangely?" He paused. "Can you do that?" Jessica thought of her colleagues, the friendly faces in the break room. But she also thought of Vincent, carrying the weight of his father's legacy, fighting to protect what he had built. She thought of her own dreams, tied now to the success of this company. "I'll help you," she agreed. "But I want something in return." Vincent's eyebrow rose. "Negotiating terms, Miss Morgan? When this is over, I want a permanent position. Not probationary, not temporary. A real role with a real future here." A smile ghosted across his lips. "Deal." He extended his hand. Jessica hesitated, remembering Rule 7. But this was business. She clasped his hand firmly, and the contact sent electricity racing up her arm. Vincent's grip tightened briefly, his thumb brushing across her knuckles before he released her. "Go home," he said quietly. "Tomorrow, we start hunting." Shifting dynamics over the following days, Jessica became Vincent's confidant in the investigation. They worked late into the nights, analyzing patterns, reviewing security footage, cross-referencing timeline data. The partnership shifted something between them. Vincent's cold exterior cracked further, revealing glimpses of the man beneath, sharp-witted, surprisingly funny, fiercely protective of his people. One evening, while reviewing financial reports, Jessica noticed Vincent rubbing his temples. Without thinking, she stood and moved behind his chair. "Headache?" "Stress," he admitted. Her hands hovered over his shoulders, aware she was about to break Rule 7 again. "May I?" Vincent went still, then gave a barely perceptible nod. Jessica's fingers found the tense muscles of his shoulders, working gently. He exhaled slowly, and she felt some of the tension leave his body. "You're good at that," he murmured. "My mother used to get terrible tension headaches from sewing. I learned young." Her thumbs pressed into a particularly tight knot, and Vincent made a sound that sent heat coursing through her. Jessica. Her name on his lips was a warning and a plea. Rule 7. Helping a colleague with a headache doesn't violate professional boundaries, she said, but her voice was breathless. Vincent reached up, his hand covering hers on his shoulder. We both know this stopped being about headaches the moment you touched me. His words hung in the air between them, an acknowledgement of everything they had been dancing around for days. Jessica's heart raced as Vincent stood and turned to face her. They were close, too close, the air thick with possibility. Tell me to step back, he said softly. Tell me this is inappropriate, and I will. Jessica knew she should. She should. Cite Rule 7. Maintain professionalism, protect her career. But looking into Vincent's eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, the desire he was fighting, she found herself wanting to break every rule. What if I don't want you to step back? She whispered. Vincent's control seemed to waver. His hand lifted, almost touching her cheek before he caught himself. Then we're both in trouble, because I want nothing more than to ignore every rule I wrote. The moment stretched, taut as a wire. Then Vincent's phone buzzed, shattering the spell. He stepped back, checking the message, and his expression hardened. It's the security team. They found something. He grabbed his jacket. Come with me. The revelation. They rode the elevator to the basement server room in charged silence. The security chief, a stern woman named Patricia, met them with a tablet, displaying security footage. We tracked the digital signature of the leaked files, Patricia explained. They were all accessed from one terminal, always after hours. Jessica's stomach twisted as she recognized the office on the screen. It belonged to Tom Chen, a senior designer she had shared lunches with, who had welcomed her warmly to the team. No, she breathed. Not Tom. Vincent's expression was granite. Are you certain? He asked Patricia. Positive. We have 3 weeks of footage showing him accessing restricted files, using a mirrored drive to copy everything. Jessica felt sick. Tom had a wife, 2 kids, always showing pictures of their soccer games. Why would he do this? Vincent seemed to read her thoughts. Quantum offered him double his salary and a vice president title. We found the contract in his email. His voice was cold, but Jessica saw the hurt beneath. I trusted him, promoted him. This is how he repays that trust. What happens now? Jessica asked quietly. Legal handles it from here. He'll be terminated and prosecuted to the fullest extent. Vincent turned away from the screen. Let's go. I've seen enough betrayal for one night. They returned to his office in silence. Vincent poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter, something Jessica had never seen him do. He stood by the window, shoulders tight with tension. You were right to trust me, she said softly. He turned, the city lights casting shadows across his face. I know. And that terrifies me. Why? Vincent set down his glass and moved toward her with purpose. Because trusting someone means giving them power to hurt you. I learned that lesson young, and I've spent years building walls to prevent it from happening again. He stopped in front of her. Then you stumbled into my boardroom, destroyed my presentation, and somehow became the one person in this building I actually believe in. Jessica's breath caught. Vincent? Rule 7 was meant to protect both of us, he continued. From exactly this. From feeling something that could complicate everything. His hand finally did what it had wanted to do earlier, cupping her cheek gently. But I think we're past that point, aren't we? She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. Completely past it. When she opened her eyes, Vincent was closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. I shouldn't want this, he whispered. Shouldn't want you. But I do. More than I've wanted anything in a very long time. Jessica's hand found his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath the expensive fabric of his shirt. Then stop fighting it. If I kiss you right now, everything changes. Your career, our working relationship, everything. Maybe some things are worth changing for, she replied. Vincent's control finally shattered. His lips found hers in a kiss that was both tender and desperate, weeks of tension finally finding release. Jessica responded with equal intensity, her fingers tangling in his hair as his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. "No going back now." "Good," Jessica whispered. "I don't want to go back." Outside the glass walls, San Francisco glittered like a million promises. Inside, two people who had spent weeks fighting attraction finally surrendered to it, knowing that tomorrow would bring complications, questions, and challenges. But for tonight, in the quiet of his office, nothing else mattered. Jessica woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a disorienting moment, she forgot where she was, then memory flooded back. Vincent's office, his leather couch, the way he had held her after that earth-shattering kiss, neither willing to let go, talking until dawn about dreams, fears, and futures. She sat up, finding herself alone, a soft blanket draped over her shoulders. Through the glass walls, she saw Vincent at his desk, already working, his profile sharp against the morning light. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up, and the smile that crossed his face was so genuine, so unguarded, that her heart stuttered. He stood and walked to her office, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Good morning," he said softly, handing her one. "I didn't want to wake you. You looked peaceful." Jessica accepted the cup, their fingers brushing. "What time is it?" 8:30. "People will start arriving soon." Vincent sat beside her, and the ease of the gesture felt natural, right? "We need to talk about this. About us." "I know." Jessica sipped her coffee, gathering courage. "Last night changed everything." It did. Vincent's expression grew serious. "I don't regret it, Jessica. I want you to know that. But we need to be smart about how we handle this. The company has strict policies about supervisor relationships." Jessica's stomach tightened. "Are you saying we have to pretend it didn't happen?" "No." He took her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles. "I'm saying we need to do this properly. I'll speak with Human Resources today, disclose our relationship, and request that you be reassigned to a different supervisor. It's the ethical approach." Relief washed through her. "You've thought this through. I spent 3 hours thinking about nothing else while you slept." He smiled wryly. "I'm not willing to lose you, Jessica. Not professionally and certainly not personally. So we do this right by the book, no matter what people say." Whispers and stares by noon, the office buzzed with speculation. Jessica had been moved to report to Margaret Foster, the creative director, while Vincent handled the formal disclosure with Human Resources. The looks Jessica received ranged from curious to envious to outright hostile. In the break room, she overheard 2 designers whispering, "Can you believe it? She ruins a presentation and somehow ends up dating the CEO. Must be nice to sleep your way to job security." Jessica's cheeks burned, but she held her head high as she prepared her tea. She had nothing to be ashamed of. Her work spoke for itself. "Actually," a voice cut through the gossip, "Jessica's campaign redesign is the best thing that happened to that project. Vincent approved it this morning, and it's brilliant." Jessica turned to see Margaret Foster standing in the doorway, her expression stern. The creative director was a formidable woman in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair and a reputation for brutal honesty. "The presentation is scheduled for next week with the client," Margaret continued, addressing the entire break room. "Jessica will be leading it, based on merit, not whatever soap opera you all think is happening." Her gaze swept the room. "Anyone who has a problem with that can bring it to my office. Otherwise, get back to work." The room cleared quickly. Margaret turned to Jessica. Walk with me." In Margaret's office, the creative director studied Jessica with sharp eyes. "Vincent told me what happened between you two. I appreciate the transparency." "I didn't plan for this," Jessica said quickly. "I know how it looks. I know you didn't. I've been watching you work, Jessica. You're talented, driven, and you put in hours that would exhaust people twice your age." Margaret leaned back in her chair. "I also know Vincent Sterling. That man doesn't do anything without careful consideration. If he's willing to risk his professional reputation for you, then you must be something special." Jessica blinked back unexpected tears. "Thank you. That means everything." "Don't thank me yet. You're going to work harder under my supervision than you ever did under Vincent. I don't play favorites, and I expect excellence." Margaret's expression softened slightly. "But I also believe in fighting for what matters. So does Vincent. Just be prepared for the battle ahead." The presentation. 1 week later, Jessica stood in the same conference room where her disaster had occurred. This time, the presentation board displayed her redesigned campaign, vibrant and bold, capturing everything Sterling Innovations represented. The client, a major tech retailer, sat around the table with Vincent, Margaret, and several executives. Jessica's hands were steady as she clicked through her presentation. "Our original approach was safe, predictable. But Sterling Innovations isn't about playing it safe. You're about innovation, disruption, changing the game." She revealed the new designs. "This campaign reflects that philosophy." The client representatives leaned forward, eyes brightening. Jessica walked them through the strategy, the market research, the projected impact. She felt Vincent's gaze on her, warm and proud, but she kept her focus professional. When she finished, silence filled the room. Then the client's CEO began to clap, and others joined in. "Miss Morgan, that was exceptional," the CEO said. "Sterling, you've got a winner here. We're in. Full campaign, expanded budget." Relief and triumph surged through Jessica. She had done it. Redeemed herself, proved her worth, silenced the doubters. As the meeting concluded and people filed out, Vincent caught her eye and mouthed, "Brilliant." The truth surfaces. That evening, Jessica was packing up her new office when Vincent appeared in the doorway. "Celebrating your victory?" he asked, smiling. "Savoring it," she admitted. "That felt amazing." "You were amazing. I knew you would be." He stepped inside, closing the door. "Have dinner with me tonight. Properly. A real date, not working late in the office." Jessica's smile widened. "I'd love that." They chose a quiet restaurant overlooking the bay, far from the office and prying eyes. Over wine and pasta, they talked. Like normal people, not CEO and employee. Vincent told her about growing up in his father's shadow, the pressure to succeed, the loneliness of running a company where everyone wanted something from you. "I stopped trusting people years ago," he admitted. "Built walls so high I forgot what it felt like to let someone in." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Then you crashed into my life, literally. And somehow those walls started crumbling." Jessica squeezed his hand. "I was terrified of you at first. Everyone warned me about the cold, ruthless Vincent Sterling. But that's not who you are, not really. With you, I don't have to be." His green eyes were soft in the candlelight. "You see me, Jessica. The real me. That's rarer than you know." They walked along the waterfront after dinner, Vincent pulled her close against the evening chill. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "About Rule 7. Jessica looked up at him. "The no physical contact rule? I created that rule 3 years ago after a situation with an employee who became obsessed with me. She misread professional courtesy as personal interest, and when I didn't reciprocate, she accused me of leading her on." His jaw tightened. It got ugly. Legal battles, reputation damage. Since then, I've maintained strict boundaries with everyone. Until me. Jessica said softly. Until you. He stopped walking, turning to face her. I broke my own rule because being near you and not touching you became impossible. Because you made me feel something I thought I had lost the capacity for. Jessica's heart swelled. What's that? Hope, he said simply. Hope that maybe I could have both success and happiness. That maybe I didn't have to choose between the company and a life worth living. She reached up, cupping his face. You don't have to choose, Vincent. We'll figure this out together. He kissed her then, tender and deep, as the city lights sparkled on the water and the world seemed to hold its breath. The challenged 2 months passed in a blur of work and stolen moments. Jessica thrived under Margaret's mentorship, her portfolio growing stronger. Her relationship with Vincent remained professional at the office and passionate beyond it. They were careful, discreet, but inevitably people noticed. The board of directors requested a meeting with Vincent. Jessica knew something was wrong when he returned to the office, his expression dark. What happened? She asked, finding him alone in his office after hours. Vincent loosened his tie, frustration evident. The board has concerns about our relationship. Several members think it's affecting my judgment, creating favoritism accusations. Jessica's stomach dropped. What are they asking you to do? End it, or remove you from the company. His voice was hard. They gave me an ultimatum. Choose the relationship or choose Sterling Innovations. The words hit like a physical blow. Jessica sank into a chair, her mind reeling. Then you have to choose the company. Vincent, this is your father's legacy. Everything you've built, you can't throw that away for me. He crossed to her, kneeling so their eyes were level. Don't you understand? None of it means anything without you. The company, the success, the legacy. What's the point of building an empire if I'm alone in it? But your father would want me to be happy, to live, not just exist. Vincent's hands found hers. My father built this company so I would have opportunities, choices. I'm choosing you, Jessica. If the board can't accept that, then maybe I don't belong here anymore. Jessica shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I can't let you sacrifice everything for me. I'll resign. Find another position. We can still be together. No. Vincent's voice was firm. You've earned your place here through talent and hard work. I won't let narrow-minded board members drive you out. He stood, his expression determined. I have a better idea. The declaration, the next morning, Vincent called an emergency board meeting. Jessica waited in her office, anxiety eating at her. Through the glass walls, she could see executives filing into the conference room, their faces grave. An hour passed. Then 2. Finally, Vincent emerged, his expression unreadable. He walked directly to Jessica's office, and her heart pounded as he closed the door. It's done, he said quietly. What's done? I gave the board 2 options. Accept that I'm in a relationship with someone who has proven her professional merit beyond question, or accept my resignation. He smiled slightly. I also pointed out that if they force me out, I take my patents, my investor relationships, and half the creative team with me. It would cripple the company. Jessica's eyes widened. Vincent, you didn't. I did. And do you know what happened? He pulled her to her feet, his hands gentle on her arms. 3 board members resigned in protest. The remaining 7 voted to approve our relationship, with the condition that you never report directly to me and that all your promotions go through independent review. Relief made Jessica's knees weak. So we can stay? Both of us? Both of us, together, publicly, officially, without hiding or apologizing. He cupped her face. I told them that you make me a better leader, a better person, that loving you doesn't compromise my judgment. It clarifies it. You told the board you love me? Jessica whispered, her heart soaring. Vincent's smile was pure warmth. I did, because it's true. I love you, Jessica Morgan. Your passion, your talent, your courage, the way you crashed into my life and refused to leave even when I tried to push you away. I love you too, she said, laughing through tears. Even though you're stubborn and impossible and made me work under terrifying scrutiny. That terrifying scrutiny was me trying not to fall for you. Obviously, I failed spectacularly. He kissed her softly. So what do you say? Ready to build something extraordinary together? The campaign? She teased. The campaign? The company? A life. His eyes held hers with absolute certainty. Everything. 6 months later, Jessica stood in the newly renovated design studio, watching her team collaborate on the fall campaign. She had been promoted to senior designer, leading her own projects, her work featured in industry magazines. The whispers had faded, replaced by respect earned through undeniable results. Vincent appeared in the doorway, and her heart still skipped when she saw him. Some things never changed. He crossed the room, maintaining professional distance, but his eyes warm with private affection. Miss Morgan, do you have a moment? He asked formally, though his lips twitched with suppressed amusement. Of course, Mr. Sterling. She followed him to a quiet corner. I have a proposition, he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Jessica's breath caught. I know we said we'd take things slow, be professional, follow all the rules. Vincent, she breathed. But I've never been good at following rules, especially the ones I made myself. He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. Jessica Morgan, you challenged me, frustrated me, and ultimately transformed my life. You taught me that the greatest risk is not taking one at all. Will you marry me? Tears blurred her vision as she nodded. Yes. 1,000 times. Yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, not caring that they were visible through the glass walls, not caring about professional boundaries or company policies. When they finally pulled apart, applause echoed through the studio. Their colleagues had gathered outside, grinning and celebrating. Margaret Foster stood among them, shaking her head with a knowing smile. Through the glass, she mouthed, I knew it. That evening, standing on Vincent's penthouse balcony overlooking San Francisco, Jessica reflected on the journey that began with spilled coffee and ended with forever. She had walked into Sterling Innovations hoping to prove herself professionally. She never imagined she would find love, partnership, and a man who would risk everything for her. Vincent wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. No regrets? He murmured. Not a single one. She turned in his embrace, looking up at the man who had started as her intimidating boss and become her everything. Though I do have one question. What's that? Whatever happened to Rule 7? Vincent laughed, the sound rich and free. Rule 7 was the first casualty of falling in love with you, along with my carefully maintained reputation, my emotional walls, and my peace of mind. Sorry about that, Jessica said, not sorry at all. Don't be. Those things needed to go. He kissed her forehead tenderly. Besides, we created better rules. Trust, honesty, always choosing each other even when it's difficult. Those are much better rules, she agreed. As the sun set over the city, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Jessica thought about the coffee catastrophe that changed her life. She had been terrified that morning, certain she had destroyed her future. Instead, she had discovered it, found it in the most unexpected place, with the most unlikely person. Sometimes the best things in life come from breaking the rules. And sometimes being punished by your boss for breaking his rule leads to the greatest reward of all. Love that transforms everything. The end.